Amos, a shepherd and a fig tree farmer, we're told, was called by God to confront injustices in his day. And maybe we, if we pause, can empathize that it's not just one thing that is going wrong for him. We don't have the personal backstory about why God called him to this moment. But we have to believe, as with most who put their lives on the line for justice, that there are a string of stories that may make what is happening feel personal. Let's imagine, if we will, that maybe he started to hear from cities that are a little further afield. Maybe there was a traveler from Gilgal or Jerusalem or Chicago, and he was told of workers being chased down and detained. Or maybe little children were lining up for a parade, choking on tear gas. Maybe closer to home, he was waiting for his subsidy check that never came. And maybe his neighbors came knocking when they were hungry, and they kept coming until there were no sheep left in his pasture and no figs to offer from his trees. So that by the time that Amos takes the long journey on foot up to the halls of power, he's not going with one man's burden, but the heartache of a multitude. And maybe it is worse than he thought up there at the temple in Bethel. We can imagine Amos finds stately rooms and gilded doorways, each ornate addition a reminder of a family with no food. And he tells those whom he sees as he musters up the strength and energy, he sees them professing to worship and taking bribes, offering lavish ceremonies, and passing policies that punish the poor, performing hollow lip service to a God who has, in the past, freed his people from bondage and slavery, a God of mercy, as we know, for the widow, the stranger, the orphan. We included this verse, often not part of the lectionary reading. It is an evil time. Not because evil is confined to one era, but because it is a part of every living day that we have. It's not one era, one people, one ruler. And it is perhaps why Amos feels the intensity of God's anger so hotly, because there is a choice and it doesn't have to be this way. We meet the evil with the good and the remembrance of the God who has seen us through. At the heart of his teachings, we hear, seek good and not evil, that you may live. Seek good. Now, not in a theoretical way that goodness can sometimes be considered by pious souls, right? This is not a dress rehearsal. This is like Fannie Lou Hamer taking the sticky August bus from rural Mississippi all the way to the Democratic Convention. Arriving in Atlantic City in 1964 to challenge the all-white state delegation. Sacred interruptions are necessary in every season. Hamer showed us what a modern prophet looks and sounds like, and we do know her stories, the stories of forced sterilization, brutal beatings upon trying to vote, and those right in her community who died of malnutrition and lynching. When she cried, "I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired," she did not stop going. There was an energy that was not hers alone. It amplified through her ancestors and swelled up to lay bare the hollow worship of a just and equal America. For the majority of lawmakers and business owners could profess one thing in the segregated hours of Sunday worship, and live their days implementing laws that failed to alleviate the hunger of the poor and blocked their participation. But Hamer kept on calling out, running for office, running a Freedom Farm cooperative, testifying so that her words and witness bore the tidal wave of stories of those from similar circumstance. And these are the waters, the stream of light that cannot be kept back. This is the work of the prophet, the one who in each time captures collective consciousness, speaking for those prohibited a seat at the city gates that govern them. And Israel and Judah must have needed this message alongside their neighbors. They must have needed many a prophet, the minor and the major ones, back to back there in what we call the Old Testament, there in the Hebrew Scriptures, leading up all the way unto the John calling out in the wilderness. One after another, words of prophets serving searing reminders that evil can embed itself in national interest and religious practice, whether coming from without or coming from within. Which leads us to a sticky question. Just how many American prophets have there been on this long road to freedom? In the hot sun of picking fields and in the cold winds of picket lines, voices and songs insistent and raising and singing justice. Friends, alongside the candy bowls this year, on my street there were donation boxes. My neighbor volunteers at the Howard County Food Bank each week. And we asked everyone coming by our street, in addition to toting bags of treats, to carry cans to reach out beyond the holiday. The good gestures of neighbors and faith groups like KC must be partnered with larger scale support. Emergency funding seems to be coming, but a long-term vision is needed to meet the 1 in 3 Marylanders now facing food insecurity. The continued shutdown and potential suspension of SNAP benefits means that people will not eat. And as we look beyond our borders, we hold in prayer the people of Jamaica, devastated by Hurricane Melissa, as Dave and Christina and their home there know so well. The storm has left communities grieving and rebuilding, reminding us that hunger and hardship are not confined to one place. Friends, in the face of natural or man-made devastation, Amos alone only has so many sheep. We respond collectively, generously, across neighborhoods and nations, not as politically motivated, but because it gets personal. And at All Saints' Day, we look for the light of those who string those personal stories together to form the collective of the people, those like Amos and Fannie Lou Hamer, with a light that is still shining. To honor the voices, large and small, that have sought good when faced with injustice. And to remind us all of our own, like Freddie, reason for being. Some of our saints are canonized, but most are everyday people that have been a part of our stories. And the large story of God's love. Those who have lived as we try to, with imperfect courage and conviction. We light candles today, and maybe you received one from Mary and from Vanessa, remembering that we are not at the end. We are part of a larger cloud of witnesses, a wider stream of righteousness than any one nation can encompass. We are situated here on Turtle Island, where Native ancestors have long lived the Creator's spirit of resurrection. In our more discouraged moments, we may feel like ours is a meager voice in the void. But even small gestures, like donating food or speaking up for the vulnerable, like lighting a candle today, help build a stream of righteousness that flows beyond any one moment or movement. Consider how you will carry the light this week into the spaces of our ongoing hunger and need. And we ask out of a spirit of our own contrition, knowing that we are even imperfect as we worship, never wanting false words or songs to come from us, but in the spirit of Amos, to get back in touch with the God of our liberation and to act accordingly in the ways that we can.